As long as we've lived in communities, they've been our least loved neighbours. They ruin our food stocks, contaminate animal feed and damage our homes. But now, Britain's rat problem is intensifying. On British TV, we can show a live super rat, confirmed to be resistant to poisons. Though it looks no different, it has a natural mutation in its DNA. And we have new evidence thousands just like it are spreading across the country.
If you thought you were scared of rats before, you might want to look away. A study out of the UK's University of Huddersfield has found large numbers of the country's rat population are now immune to popular pesticides due to a toxin-resistant gene. It's believed the mutant rats most likely came from France and are multiplying rapidly. Since they are immune to the poison, it's almost like food to them. Some breeding pairs can produce as many as 800 pups in just 2 years. It's not like these are just any old poisons. Researchers say if you ate them, it would most definitely kill you.
This is the corner of Frontis Road, and just will across Lozals.
Children are too scared to play outside on a Birmingham street. In one concerning video, rats can be seen dancing in the window before licking condensation off the glass. Now, locals have expressed their fears of an environmental health hazard, both for the family living within the inhumane conditions and for the neighbours suffering as a result. Since the bin strike in Birmingham, matters have only got worse. Rats are now chewing through car wires, rummaging through bags outside and damaging nearby properties.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Eat the cat, eat the cat. Eat the cat, eat the cat.
Seeing red, so don't push me. Ain't Donald Trump trying to grab him by the... Been doing cartwheels.
Have you seen Garfield?
Eat the cat.
Have you seen Snowball? This about to snowball. I'm about to go off. I can't let this go on. Miss me like an airball. Tell me where my cat is, cough it up like a hairball.
The bin men in Birmingham are on strike. Rubbish hasn't been collected for weeks, and there's rats the size of cats turning up. How come? I mean, how do these rats know how to come? Hey Remy, get Ralph, get Linguini, get Ravioli, and get all the cast of Ratatouille ready. We're going to Birmingham on holiday. Have you seen all the bin bags on the news?
Raphael, I need your help.
Couldn't this wait till morning?
Thank you to bringing me to Birmingham, where the rubbish is extravagant. Please, bring my family over. There is a boat from France to the UK. Bring all the rats over. Raphael.
It's absolutely a war zone. We have bins on every single corner. We have rats, literally the size of cats, roaming our streets, and it's become a cesspit of rubbish on every single corner. And it's actually quite shameful, really, that the council has allowed it to get this bad. And the fact that you can't walk down any street without having to forcibly move off the pavement and walk into the road because the streets are covered in mountains, literal mountains of rubbish.
A city activist has claimed his calls for a major clean-up on a rubbish-filled street have fallen on deaf ears for 3 years. Jerry Moynihan likened walking along Small Heath's Camelot Way to climbing Mount Everest. The Bordesley Green activist filmed himself trying to bypass mountains of rubbish blocking his path at the fly-tipping hotspot. Huge piles of litter, household waste, furniture and even a car bumper were seen scattered across the pavement in the short clip.
We visited rat-infested alleyway that's been city dumping ground for 10 years. Claims of giant rats running riot inside people's homes has led to desperate calls for an alleyway in Handsworth to be cleared once and for all. The huge mountain of rubbish includes around a dozen fridge freezers, suitcases, battered old sofas and a rotting moped. The rubbish has, according to locals, remained untouched for the last 10 years.
It's all about those pesky rats. You know what I mean? This is Talk. But first, Christian Hems, Pest Interceptors, a company that's boast, without perhaps any fear or favour, that they know everything they need to know about rats and they can be absolutely sure that they would get rid of them. Very good morning to you, Christian.
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm very well indeed. Now, this sounds like a job for you guys. Birmingham City overrun by giant rats. Have you ever seen them? Have you ever been to Birmingham to see them? And if you haven't, could you go there and get rid of them?
Well, I mean, those photos there and that video there kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you've got people living in squalor and those people really don't care about how they're living, you know, I mean, it's not just Birmingham. We were doing a job just down in Wolverhampton this week.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable, Mike. Honestly, to solve our customer's problem, we needed to get into a manhole, right? The sewers run.
Yeah.
And I went round to the neighbours and I climbed on the rubbish in the back garden and I was at the same level as the 6-foot fence.
Oh, my God. Well, they just chuck their rubbish in the back garden.
It's classed as normality now, you know, and it's like certain parts of Birmingham. It's just incredible, mate. Incredible.
Wow. I mean, what do they think's going to happen if they chuck rubbish in the garden? I mean, you're going to get rats. It's not rocket science, is it?
Well, the horrific thing about this particular garden was when I looked down, it wasn't just building waste and God knows what else in there. It was actually nappies, babies' nappies, you know, that had just been thrown out the window. It's like, what on earth is going on with society?
Right. And who's doing this? I mean, what sort of people are they?
Well, there are certain areas, aren't there? You know, I mean, is it...
I mean, let's call it for what it is. Is it immigrant neighbourhoods? What is it?
The harder pressed the neighbourhood is, the worse it is, I think. Right. You know, I mean, we've gone to houses where people... We did one job over in Walsall where there was a lady with a child... You know, with a newborn baby, I think it was. And there were rat holes coming up in every corner of the bedrooms, rat holes in there. And it's like, this woman was renting this place. Right. And it's like, well, why is that even allowed to be rented?
Yeah.
Those people need to be gotten rid of in our society.
Yeah.
So people can lift themselves up a little bit out of the squalor that they're living in.
You know, when I used to live in Nairobi in Kenya, one thing that you saw taking place a lot is people just setting fire to rubbish at the side of the road. I don't know why, but they were always doing it. It was gross, horrible, toxic fumes. There's bin bags full of horrible trash. It was just creating a conflagration as you drive your car to work. Well, now... you don't have to be in the developing world to see such a scene. You can just go to Birmingham because residents there are torching their own rubbish as bin bags are piling up, sparking fears of toxic fumes, exploding batteries, probably out of control fires. If it's not the burning of waste by the side of the road, which is some sort of horrible developing world country spectacle, it's rats the size of dinosaurs.
Now, the big story of the week that we've been talking about, and the week past as well, is the rats running around the size of cats, although this morning one of the papers has got rats the size of dogs. I think it's the Daily Star. I mean, David Bull the other day called them rats the size of pigs. I mean, how big are these bleeding rats? Martin Holt, for example, people burning their own bins in Birmingham. I mean, you know, Birmingham, as I'm now calling it, B-U-R-N, of course. Let's talk to Arnold Tarling, who's a fire safety expert, because I'm pretty sure burning your own rubbish is illegal. First of all, Arnold, very good morning to you. And if it's not illegal, it's certainly not a very good idea, is it?
Well, certainly not. You know, they have a Clean Air Act up in Birmingham at the moment, as they do in London and other places, but that's only in regards to smoke coming out of chimneys.
Right.
But you don't want to be burning materials, particularly plastics and rubber and materials like that, because of the dioxins and phthalates and volatile organic compounds which come out, which are very detrimental to your health.
Yes.
Should be here. Look at the crisis. Look at the problem.
Birmingham's bin workers are on strike after the council plan to cut jobs, leaving around 150 workers £8,000 worse off. Now, England's second largest city is facing bin mountains piling up on the streets.
If everyone says just one bag, how much is going to be there? Tell me.
If ever there's like a symbol of how this is a failed society, yeah?
Look at the people that live in them, they don't give a shit, just throw it and leave it.
We don't live like this in Pakistan.
I just don't understand. England is a nasty country now anyway.
The rats is everywhere.
You're coming straight out of the sewer and here's dinner.
I've got pictures of rats in my house.
In the house?
Yeah. Birmingham rats are on steroids.
It's our communities that are getting hit the hardest.
It's a pity that it's have to be Birmingham.
Tempers flared as residents helped council crews to remove several piles of fly-tipped rubbish along a single Birmingham road where residents say rats have started chewing their sofas. Tipper trucks were called in to pick up tons of festering, pungent waste dumped at the junction on several groves leading off Runcorn Road in Borsall Heath on Thursday morning.
Basically, it's been crazy. You know, you see all this rubbish here. So every day we're trying to contact the council, our MPs and everything. Try to say to them, remove the rubbish, because of this, the rats, like the rising numbers. You see rats every, in the mornings. You see rats on the road and stuff. Yeah, people are literally double parking black in the avenues, so we're getting late for work as well, which that comes in as well. So we're getting late for work, the double parking, and it's getting more and more worse and worse day by day. It's more worse day by day. So it's just, you can see it right from this, crazy.
While locals moved tirelessly to move black bin bags so they could be accessed by the lorry, others piled large household goods, such as fridges and sofas, onto the mountain, causing a partial blockage of the road. This is the astonishing mountain of rubbish which is blocking a pavement in Alum Rock. Black bin bags and other disgusting waste are piled on top of each other on Gowan Road, forcing pedestrians onto the path of cars. Locals have been uploading videos of the horrendous and unsanitary dump, which is attracting rats and giving off a vile smell in a bid to highlight how bad the issue has become.
And the rats have become so bad, local mechanics have been inundated.
They'll sit inside the engine and then wherever they can see a few wires, they'll start chewing the wires up.
Has this been the most rat damage to cars you've seen?
Definitely.
We've been speaking to locals today who say
Furious residents have demanded an urgent criminal investigation to find the culprits for the disgusting fly-tipped mountain of rubbish that's appeared on Maidstone Road in Aston. The heap includes sodden mattresses, old fridges, builders' debris, furniture and suitcases. Nearby residents say the stench and sight of the pile is sickening.
We're on Maidstone Road here in Aston. This is nothing less than a criminal act from fly tippers that have been tipping here, and obviously it seems like residents have added onto it.
The bins, there's been so much rubbish, you won't believe it, everywhere, and what people are doing, they're emptying their bins and putting it outside other places, they put them in outside our shop as well. Plus, the council tax they put up, why aren't they paying the bin people? They're charging us extra money and they're not paying them. I feel sorry for them because they do hard work.
Absolute trash. Anyone fly tipping on here now? There's cameras on and I'm watching everyone. And you're all going to get reported. The situation's horrible. You can see rats coming out of the bins when you're walking out with your kid. Pushchairs can't get through. The smell is horrendous, as you can smell yourself. I mean, look at it. What sort of way is it to live like this? It's not a way. If there's a wheelchair user, they're not getting through. As you can see, this car's now going to be struggling to get through this way.
And you're cleaning.
And I was cleaning, yeah. The other day I was cleaning the whole road. But no one is helping cleaning. All they're doing is driving past, looking at the rubbish.
Birmingham City Council has confirmed it is sticking with its controversial rat tax, despite...
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to turn to the sorry state of Labour-run Birmingham, where rats the size of Dachshunds are terrifying the local residents. Indeed, in the Daily Telegraph this morning, we read that Birmingham City Council has warned of a possible surge of rat-borne diseases to which the elderly, disabled people and babies are particularly susceptible. The government has had emergency powers throughout this crisis, not least the Civil Contingencies Act. Will the Minister set out for the House why it has declined to use them?
I'd like to thank the honourable member for his question. I'm sure he would like to join me in praising the Deputy Prime Minister and her team for her hard work on this.
And the higher the likelihood is that we're going to encounter those. So again, rodents still play a very important role in the spreading of these emerging and sometimes re-emerging zoonotic diseases. So, to quote Webster and MacDonald, rodent presence can have a serious impact on public health and potentially be hazardous as they amplify these pathogens from their environment by forming reservoirs of zoonotic disease. So what these rodents are doing is they're not only transferring it from A to B, but also they're creating stable populations of these diseases in the environment, which we are unable to not just control effectively, but also manage to understand how they move or to even be aware that they're there. And that can be the real risk sometimes. So from this same paper by Webster and MacDonald, what they did is this pair went to a farm in England and they carbon monoxided a burrow. They just pumped a load of carbon monoxide down, killed all of the rats within this burrow, and then very carefully excavated this burrow, dug it up, and every time that they found a rat, they took it off and they sent it off for pathology, and they tried to find all of the diseases that were living in, on, or around that rat at the time. And not just the diseases that are on it, but also the parasites that were living on it as well. So here we go. Here we can just see just some of the worms, you know, the parasitic worms living in rats in England in 1995. And this may mean not a huge amount to you, but when I do this, and I show you that these are the worms that can then transfer to humans, and these are worms found within feces, these are worms found within the bodies of these animals, and so the capability of these animals to move to human beings is relatively high. You can understand that actually this is a bit of a worry. So here's just some pictures of those lovely ones. You have on the left, you know, that was that's a liverworm, and the one on the right is a tapeworm, both of which live within rats, both of which can then move on to human beings through contact with feces or direct contact with those animals as well. So keep that in mind next time you are shoveling up rat poop from a job. Additionally, though, there's a whole host of different bacteria, protozoas, and viruses associated with rodents. As you can see here, almost all of the bacterium found within these rodents is capable of making this zoonotic leap from rodents to human beings. And some of these numbers are quite alarming. So 14% of these rats found on these farms carried leptospirosis, Weil's disease. Almost 5% of them contained Hantan virus, which is Southeast Asia hemorrhagic fever, a disease we wouldn't really associate in the UK, and yet 5% of rats carried this within this farm in England. So this is some of the real dangers of these rodents and these diseases, because if you imagine that, I mean, I think there was a study that was done by Crew, which I'll not done by Crew, that was reported by Crew, which I'll state in a minute, said that they redid this study, they had a look at it again, and they found that something like 60% of rats had at least one of these diseases, and then a further 10% or something like that had multiples of these diseases. So with that, there is a real risk that the diseases are here, they are there, they're around everywhere, they're with the rodents that you were picking up and touching every day. It's also worth mentioning as well that rats are an ecosystem to themselves. So when they excavated these rats from these burrows, they found that there was 100% of the rats found in the burrows had fleas on or near them. 2/3 of them had mites on or near them, and a further third had lice on or near them. And all of these ectoparasites are capable in themselves of transferring diseases from from rodents to human beings, and from rodents to other animals as well. So bear in mind that it's not just the rats and mice that are carrying these diseases, but the animals associated with them as well are able to carry their own flotilla of nasty diseases. What's that got to do with us, eh? Well, as I mentioned to you before, this study in 2020, which was highlighted in a Crew press release, which you can go back and have a look at if you like, said that actually not a huge amount has changed. They still found those same diseases within those animals. And as I said before, many of those animals contained at least one of diseases, and then many more were containing multiples of those diseases within their bodies. So the risk is still there. It's not just something we had a look at and it's got better over time. If anything, it's the same, if not worse than it was before. So keep that in mind. These things are still ongoing. It's not historic. So why should we worry at the end of the day? Why do infinitely more dangerous, or can become infinitely more dangerous? So a couple of other terminologies to talk about. Oh, we have vectors, which seems to have disappeared. There we go. Vectors. So vectors can either be biological or mechanical. So biological vectors are when that pathogen or that disease lives within the animal which is moving it from A to B, and they live within it and they'll actually grow within it. So if we think things like the plague, for example, that would be a biological disease, and the biological vector of that would be the fleas and the rats. If we think about things like malaria, the biological vector for malaria would be things like the Anopheles mosquito, because the malaria will live and grow in that host, and also the vector mechanism moving it from host to host as well. We also have mechanical vectors, and that is when an animal such as a rat or a mouse or a fly or a cockroach will run over a contaminated surface, and as they pass over that contaminated surface, they will pick up that virus, or they'll pick up that bacteria or that fungus or that pathogen. They'll pick it up in their feet or their fur or their cuticle, and they'll mechanically move it from A to B. And it doesn't necessarily grow when it's on that animal, but it is able to be transported from A to B. So probably one of the easiest ways to think about this would be salmonella. And you have salmonella, you have a cockroach running over a kitchen work surface, and you can have the absolutely perfect separation between clean, prepared, and ready to go. And if that cockroach just simply runs from the bin or runs from a untidy surface and runs across all of those other surfaces, it's going to be carrying that bacteria as it goes, shedding as it goes, making that contamination as it wanders about. Now, probably one of the more alarming studies that was done was a study that was, I think, funded by Killgerm a couple of years back, where they took flies that they found in hospital units, flies that they'd caught in hospital units, and tested them for what disease they're carrying. And they actually found that a lot of these flies that were present in hospital units were carrying MSRA. They were landing on patients that had these superbugs. They were picking it up on their feet, they were picking it up on the cuticle, and they were mechanically vectoring it around the hospital. More alarming enough, I think they also found that it was present in flies found outside the hospital as well. So the potential was that these mechanical vectors were actually moving these diseases some considerable distances. So we always think of biological vectoring as being the dangerous one, because we associate it with things like the plague, and we associate it with things like malaria. But actually, mechanical vectoring can be equally as terrifying, because it's able to just pick up and scoop up those pathogens and just transport them from A to B. And again, in a way that is very unpredictable, in a way that is not very controllable or manageable at that point. Well, I say manageable, that's exactly what you guys are here for, is to manage that movement, to manage that vectoring process. So keep this in mind when we're talking about vectors. We can also have this indirect and direct transmission process. So of course, direct is probably the easiest to conceptualize. It's literally these instances where these two host species will come into direct contact with one another. And that's usually done through bite scratches or contact with bodily fluids, such as excreta or saliva, or any of the other plethora of excreta that we find coming out of rats and mice. Indirect, on the other hand, is instances where these two host species are separated by an intermediary, such as a surface or an object, and they're deposited on one by that vector and picked up by the host at another time. So I'm going to ask you the question that I always love to ask, which is, you guys, and shout out in the chat if you like, when was the last time, you went to a pub and you bought a can of Coke, and you bought the can, and the can of Coke was presented to you undepressed, and you just simply depressed the ring pull and took a big swig from it? When was the last time you actually cleaned the top of that can before you depressed that little ring pull and took a big swig. Now, of you guys that work in pubs and you guys that, you know, cover pubs, where is it you find all the rats and mice? It's going to be in the beer cellar. It's going to be in the beer cellar where you have all of your cans of Coke sat there for weeks, if not months, with mice and rats running over the top of them, urinating as they go, shedding diseases as they do so. And what you've done is you've picked up that can and you've basically taken a great big swill of mouse wee. Congratulations. You know, and I guarantee every one of the 278 of you now is going to start cleaning the tops of your cans of Coke. But also, we can be mechanical vectors for disease as well. Think about your bait box keys, guys. So you're sat there, you're wearing your gloves, you're opening up your box, you're encountering you're touching all of this stuff, you're putting your bait box key into that box, okay? You're also touching it with your hands, which have been touching all of these surfaces that have been contaminated by pests and by, you know, these vectors of disease. And of course, you put your keys back and you put your keys back. Your keys are now that intermediary surface for these diseases. So when you take your gloves off and you put your keys on the kitchen counter, or you pick your keys up and you put them in your kit bag, there you go. That's your indirect contact between you and the environment, and it's happened straight away. So be mindful of the fact, because these indirect instances can be very difficult to try and track and trace. So keep an eye out for that. But there we go. To continue and not to derail myself anymore, to keep in mind, contact with urine and feces is a vector and a potential source of contamination, but also with that, the inhalation of dust. So if you have a particularly dusty environment and you've had a rat or a mouse running over it and they've been urinating over it as they've gone, shedding things like leptospirosis from their urine into this dust, and so long as that dust remains wet, if you were to then agitate that dust and breathe it in, your lungs are very, very permeable. Your lungs are very, very good at absorbing materials. So with that, the inhalation of dust, which has been contaminated through urine or contaminated through other means, can be an issue. So again, this is why necessarily wear your masks when you're out on site, especially on dusty sites. Bite scratches, both from rodents and arthropods, both from alive and dead animals, as I should say. So don't, just because the animal is dead or just because the animal is, you know, rendered immobile, don't assume that you are not going to suffer a bite or scratch from it. And then finally, the ingestion of contaminated food and water. So keep these particular avenues of movement of these diseases in mind when you're going about your day-to-day jobs.
The army has been called in to fight giant rats and tackle growing piles of rubbish in Birmingham. The city declared a major
Signal's weird. Must be some interference or something. There's movement all over the place. Get back to operations. It's game time.
Newt. Seal the door. Hurry!
Come on! Come on, get back! Work fast.
Cover your eyes, Newt. Don't look at the light.
Movement. Signal's clean. Range 20 meters.
They found a way in. Something we missed.
We didn't miss anything. 18. 17 meters.
Something under the floor, not in the plans. I don't know.
15 meters.
Ripley?
Definitely inside the barricades.
Let's go.
13 meters.
That's right outside the door. Hicks, Vasquez, get back!
Man, this is a big fucking signal. How you doing, Vasquez? Talk to me.
Almost there.
That's it. 12 meters. 11. 10.
Then they're right on us.
9 meters. Remember, short, controlled bursts. 8 meters. 7. 6.
Can't be. That's inside the room.
It's reading right, man. Look. Well, you're not reading it right. 5 meters, man. 4. What the hell? Oh, my God. Oh, shit. Give me the light.